As a veteran, small business owner, what can we do for you?
What we can all do for all veteran business owners is promote each other.
My main mission was to look at tools of technology to leverage small business and give them more of a competitive advantage.
My mission for Veteran Bargains is very simple: to help vets.
That story in itself, to run for Vista City Council, is a journey.
I think this is an opportunity to really collaborate with those gone before us.
It's really kind of a labor of love.
And now your host.
Good afternoon. Happy Friday. How's everybody doing today? This is your live Veterans Radio Show, bringing you purposeful leaders transcending military support throughout their community through their actions. I'm Laura Torres, your host, and in the back I have Michael Wood, our show producer, our CEO and founder, Joseph Molina, and today we have two very special guests, very purposeful leaders who are definitely changing the narrative out in our community. We have Robin Gable, and I'm going to bring her back in. And as we speak, Robin is a very proud Navy veteran, creator, founder of Veterans Ascent, who connects employers with military talent. And then we also have Kendra Lowe, who is she's joining us all the way from Texas. It's a military spouse and also Air Force veteran, innovative leader, founder and CEO of Thrive On. And she's also changing the development and the programming when it comes to behavioral therapy resources for military families. So those are two of the very special guests that we have today, as well as we are going to have a very special intermission segment where we're going to tell you all about what happened at the Veteran Chamber of Commerce Happy Hour, as well as share with you some pictures in our board of directors meeting that took place last Friday. It's been a very busy month here for us. But first, I'm going to go and welcome our special guests, Robin and Kendra, and welcome them here into the show. Welcome, ladies. How are you doing today?
Good afternoon. Doing really well. Thank you for having us.
Yes, welcome here. And also Joe is here with us. Joe, welcome. And I know that you guys have, yes, absolutely. We have a very special message for Robin and for Kendra. And so I want to give our CEO the floor so that he's able to right now take on and give us a warm welcome.
Well, thank you very much, Laura. And I just wanted to quickly welcome Robin and Kendra for participating in the show. I know Robin and I have a very long relationship for years now, and looking forward to do the same with Kendra and see how we can help our military families, our active duty, and our veterans in our communities. So I'm back to you, Laura, and thank you very much for joining us today. Thank you.
And Kendra and Robin, you ladies, is this the first time you're meeting each other?
Yes, it is.
It is.
Perfect. So so I hope that this is the opportunity for us to collaborate and coordinate much ongoing, community support and cohesively work towards the better of our community. So thank you so much. So Kendra, hang in there. You're welcome to come back and make some comments or ask Robin some direct questions, but I am going to turn my time right now and attention to her story and what it comes to mind to her about how she got involved and how she joined the military. What led to that experience? So tell us, Robin, what is your military story?
All right. Well, my military story is a very proud one. I grew up in a relatively small town in Indiana, and through family situations, just did not have the money to go to college. And so I was wondering, what I wanted to do. I knew at the time I needed to belong to something that was bigger than me, place where I could excel. And so the Navy recruiter came to our high school one day and said, "Join the Navy and see the world." So that's what I did. And it was 1979, so it was a kind of a weird time for females to go into the military. So my story, although I served in the Cold War, not any time of conflict or combat, it was conflicting at times to be a female in the military from 79 to 88. So, but I loved it. I loved being in the Navy and that journey that's led me to today.
I'm glad. And so why did you choose the Navy here? And I think I saw a post somewhere out there, Army versus Navy, Navy versus Army. Why led you to the Navy? Was it because the recruiter happened to be in town for you guys?
That really is what it was. Although I think probably the water, even though I lived in a landlocked state, the thought of going in the Navy and being able to maybe get to the water, although I never served on the ship, I did serve on 2 islands, so that I guess counts. But yeah, the Navy recruiter just happened to be the right person at the right time to draw me in and say, come join the Navy. So it was really came down to that. But it was a great experience. I'd never been on an airplane before. I went to basic training, so that was interesting. I flew from Indianapolis to Orlando in July. Not sure why I thought going to Orlando, Florida in the heat of the summer was a good idea, but you learn. And so my first night at basic training was pretty much torture because my ears, I had a hard time adjusting to the altitude on the plane. And by the time I got to Orlando, it was very late. So I very much questioned what decision I had made for myself that first night. But every day after that, for the 9 years that I served, were absolutely wonderful. I just loved wearing the uniform. I was very fanatical about wearing the uniform, making sure that everybody had their ribbons on straight and their buckles, a quarter of an inch, all of those things that were required. It was my element, and I did very well.
Oh, perfect. That was my husband's element too. All about the ribbons and the badges and everything else that he got to wear on the uniform, and everything had to be straight and perfect, right? So let me ask you, did you get to see the world?
So I did actually get to see parts of the world I didn't even know existed. So out of basic training, I actually, at the time, the Navy didn't have enough company commanders, is what they call their drill instructors. And so they chose 5 new recruits, just newly in the Navy, to be assistant company commanders. And I was chosen to be one of those. So that was an honor in and of itself, just being able to have that opportunity to go from being trained to doing the training. So when I left that assignment, I called the detailer to figure out where I was going next. And she said, how about Keflavik, Iceland? And I was like, where is that? So I had no idea. And I tell that story, and then I have to say, so much for my geography in high school, right? So, but I spent 2 years in Iceland, which was a tremendous experience. Again, I'd never been on an airplane and never been really anywhere outside of Indiana that often. I think Texas was the only state I'd ever visited prior to that. And so going to Iceland, where I was at the time much blonder and blue-eyed, I fit in. Like the Icelandics thought I was Icelandic, but it was a very weird time then, being on a base that far away, very isolating. Of course, back then, we didn't have the internet. We didn't have cell phones. We didn't have a lot of landlines to begin with off the base. And so communicating with family was really tough. And it was where I learned to never end a call without the last thing somebody hearing me say, especially family or friends, is I love you. Because there were so many times when I got that monthly landline call and it would drop before we got to finish the conversation. Wow. And I wouldn't get to talk to my family again for maybe another month or so. And so but it was beautiful country up there, if anybody ever gets the chance to go. And then from there, I went to Jacksonville, Florida, then to Brunswick, Maine. And then I spent 3 years in Pearl Harbor. So that was another very honorable assignment. I felt very proud to be in such a historic and cultural place. Again, Hawaii's a beautiful country. Certainly the extremes. I went from being very cold in Iceland to very warm in Hawaii. But yeah, and then I from there went to Quantico for programming school and then got out of the Navy at that point.
So for sure, the Navy delivered. So you got your I guess you can say your Navy road all the way across the world, right? You're traveling and you got those perks definitely out of the way. So that's fantastic. I'm so excited that you got to see all of those different countries and experience, what life is out in another part of the world, because that usually changes us completely, right? Now, and really transcends differently how you see the world back home as you come back. So now tell me about your story in transitioning out of the military. How did that go for you, and what steps did you take to make it successful for you, if it was successful in your view back then?
At the time, I thought it was successful because I got out and I moved back to Florida and got a job. However, now I know better that it was not a successful transition. One, I did not go through any sort of transition assistance program. Nothing. I was in the Navy in my uniform on March 31st, April 1st. They handed me my last check and I was out of there. So there was no transition, no, here, do you need anything? Where are you going? How do you, whatever. And so, but I was young. I was still 27 at the time. And I was like, I just spent 9 years in the Navy. I can do anything. I'm not afraid. And so I moved to Florida, where my mom and my sister lived at the time, and I went to a resume writer, and the resume writer said, you know what? No one's going to understand what you did in the military. So go get a job as an administrative assistant for a technology company that will, be able to use some of your skills, but they won't understand what they are. So at the time, I didn't think anything about it because I was fearless. I just spent 9 years in the Navy. But the problem was that the years that I'd spent in the Navy, the training that the Navy gave me, I did data entry for, mining submarine data that, we were tracking out of Iceland. I ran payrolls for the Navy in Hawaii and did data processing on major projects. Programming, I programmed Excel spreadsheets before there was Excel. So there were a lot of skills that I brought to the table and could have brought to an organization, but I had to start over. And now years later, I know now that I instantly became undervalued, underpaid, and underemployed. So of course, because I wasn't utilizing the skills that I had and I wasn't being paid at the level I truly brought to the table, I didn't stay in that first job for very long. And that's where a lot of veterans fall into that category, and employers get that perception that we don't stay very long in our first job out of the military. But I worked my way back up, and fast forward several years, I ended up working for a major company, very large organization, doing the exact same job I was doing when I got out of the Navy. So my last job in the Navy was an account executive for the Navy's Honeywell computer systems. They allowed civilian companies to use the data processing on our computer. I was their liaison and making sure they were happy, doing quarterly events with them and things like that. So I ended up getting that similar job for a major corporation. Then finishing my master's, I met an Army veteran's wife who told me that her husband had been out for about 6 months, could not get an interview, could not find a job. And something in me just said, how is it possible that this is still happening 25 years later after I've been out of the Navy? What happened to me is still happening. So that's what led us to Veterans Ascend.
Hold that. So now you have been out of the military. You went through challenges, hardship, and all these different, really challenging your skills about as a professional and how you really fitted into civilian community in the workforce, right? So then that really, all of that experience and the common challenges that you review out in the community really triggered your inquisitive mind to say, hey, what's going on here? What can I do to help our veterans really land the jobs that are worth, based on our experience, right? And so you created Veterans Ascend.
Yes. So
tell me about your mission in Veteran Ascend and how does this really ties into everything else that you have in the personal level?
Yeah, for sure. So really because as I mentioned before, going into the military as a female back in the 70s, 80s, was a weird time. And so I really became an advocate for other females. When I went to Iceland, I did not have an occupation assigned to me yet, so I had to choose one. And I was told, nope, you can't do that job because you're a female. No, you can't serve on that ship because you're a female. You can't be on that aircraft because you're a female. And I was so frustrated because I said, if I can pass the test, if I have the skills, if I have the knowledge and I have the strength, why can't I do the job? So that really started that foundation for me to be doing what I'm doing today, because now I've kind of brought it full circle. And that's really what Veterans Ascend is all about. It's all about helping connect an employer with our military talent based on their skills and nothing else. No resume, no applying, no job search. We really want employers to say, what skills do I need for this job? And then be automatically matched to a candidate that has those skills to facilitate that interview and allow that veteran or military spouse to tell their story and tell that employer why they're good at their job, why their skills add value to their organization, and why they want to work for their organization. So it's breaking those barriers, but it really comes down to those connections. So being able to say, here I am, Robin Grable, I've got all these skills that I bring to the table. How do I take those skills across the entire civilian marketplace and workforce and find where I fit in? Veterans Ascend does that for the candidates. We match them automatically through our algorithm that based on the employers putting in the skills they need, the location, and the salary range they're offering, we match them to the right candidates and allow them to have an interview to tell their story. So
that's fantastic. I love that. I love that process, because that's quite often, usually, obviously cannot tell you the story, right? But you're not unfamiliar with it. But the whole idea of the resume, right? Tailor your resume, go through the whole process, retailor it, rewrite it, redo it, but then there's also that other side of the community when it comes to job searching that tells you, oh, the networking, it's about the who you know and all that stuff. So I'm glad that you found a system that it's sort of, leverages those connections, but also that interest, and really cuts down into really who is who and who needs what right on the process, and those in a much shorter step. Now, I know that maybe perhaps as a company owner, when you started your organization, what is one thing that you know now that you wish you would have known before that maybe could have helped you, if anything, maybe target it a little bit differently from the beginning?
Yeah, so that's a great question. There's a few things, but I think really it comes down to the one thing I would mention is funding. So when I first started, I had I had my own personal money. I went to a bank and said, here's what I'm doing. Here's my business plan. They were all for it. So we started the programming. We started the development of the algorithm and paying a developer to do that. Sadly, a couple of months into the programming, the bank, for some reason, changed their mind and decided that it was a service, software as a service business. So it wasn't like we were, building a widget that we could sell or they could have assets for. So they just didn't want to take the chance. So they pulled the funding out from under me. And so my one advice to people would be, especially if you're building a software or a service business versus a product business, make sure you've got the funding in hand and budgeting the amount that you have available to the next task that you need to pay for, because that set off a catalyst for a financial struggle that we really are still under even 2.5 years later. It's getting better. It's getting much better. And we're still here and we're not going anywhere. But that really was a lesson learned on making sure that you don't put the cart before the horse, I guess, if you will, and get your funding in line, know how much you have to spend, and don't commit to anything beyond that until you've got the resources to cover it.
That's great. And I'm glad that you're right on cue when it comes to funding, right? Especially nowadays, there's just so much out there and so many commitments that we have out in our world that is really easy for us to, I guess you could say, overanalyze or maybe underanalyze in a way, and not have enough the proper funding so that we can stay in business. It's really the right, like you said, formatting the right concept and the right process so that you can stay in business and continue to do that, and then add on as you continue to grow.
Exactly.
I guess that's essential. Yeah. So thank you so much, Robin. If you are joining us right now we're talking to Robin Grable, who is founder and creator of Veterans Ascend, a proud Navy veteran. She connects, her company connects employers with military talent, and they're changing the way employers find and hire all of our military veterans and talent. So thank you so much. Robin, is there anything we can do to help you really broadcast or share with our community and amplify your message, how you are, supporting our community, and what can we do to better support you and reach a much greater community?
Absolutely. So a couple of things. Really, referrals are the best way to help us. Refer veterans to us. The Veterans Chamber does a great job of that. Refer the military spouses to us to create a profile. Our service is completely free for all military members and military family members. And it takes less than 10 minutes to create your profile. Again, no resume, no job search, and no applying first to get to the interview. And then referrals to employers who are intentionally looking to hire military talent because they value the skills that a military talent brings to their organization. They just don't know how to connect, translate, or align within their organization. And that's what we do automatically for them. So referrals. Follow us on social media. We've got a LinkedIn page, Veterans Ascend, and our website, veteransascend.com. And then our LinkedIn page, our Facebook page, Twitter, and Instagram all have Veterans Ascend. If you search for Veterans Ascend on those platforms, you'll find us. But follow us, increase our following so that the more followers we have, the greater impact we have, and really just share what we're doing. It is a paradigm shift, the way that we are connecting employers and military talent. But our mission truly is to help make employers so successful in hiring our military talent so that our military families can have successful transitions out of the military. So that's what it's all about for us, is those connections. But yeah, just the referrals. We also have a revenue share program. If anybody's interested, if you've got an organization, a nonprofit, and would like to be to learn more about our revenue share, just get in touch with us at our email address is talent@veteransascend.com. And we'll be happy to talk with you about it.
Fantastic. And I'm going to applaud you here, send you a virtual applaud and a high five, because I love your concept. I love the idea of having to not necessarily do the whole intimidating resume right off, but again, we can talk so much about all that stuff. And I see Leonila Thompson is viewing, and she shared all your links right there. So thank you, Leonila. Thank you, Neela. She shared everything else. So you definitely have a strong community support and cause out there that we're all here to support you. And I invite you to stay there. Robin, don't go away, because we're about to review right now and just recap what happened last Friday at our CEO board meeting, as well as the happy hour that was hosted by our San Diego chapter director on Friday night. It was such an incredible event. I never attended anything like it, and I wish we would have had a lot more attendance, but again, we didn't know what we were expecting. So I'm going to have share a little bit of those pictures in just a little bit, a recap. And I don't know if our CEO is going to join me right now, but if not, that's okay. I can do it, and Robin will do it with me and Joe. So you want to come back, both of you, so that we can share all the great, amazing details that happened at our happy hour.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, Laura.
Welcome, everyone, to the National Veterans Chamber of Commerce. This is our annual board and executive directors meeting. We're very pleased to have everyone attend today for our 2020 annual meeting. We're looking forward to a 2021 year with a lot more activities than we had in 2020, but still it's an honor to have you. Executive directors, participating coordinators, and presidents of chambers are present with us today. So we'd like to just introduce our attendance. We'd like to start with Dali. Dali is our social media, Facebook, great stuff coordinator. Lily, our military spouses training program. And Andrea, as our coordinator for the app for Connect Street program. Kelly, our Legal Tuesdays, our attorney who answers the questions, and the best attorney ever. Shelley, our director for the Orange County Inland Empire Chamber of Commerce. And then Jimmy, which is our Green Initiatives program, with Mika, his assistant and worker. And then Eileen, our Texas representative and also Miss Texas, I should add, as well as global founder, which is sex trafficking. And then Dave from Orange County from the program that supports transitional military and graduate students. Thank you, Dave. Mindy from Idaho, our executive director for the National Veterans Chamber of Commerce chapter. And then Ray from San Diego Veterans Chamber of Commerce. Awesome, Ray. And then Mark. Welcome, Mark, from the Inland Empire Orange County chapter. And of course, Mary Sadath, which is the a great community partner with Dan Leonard and Pay Forward. Always a pleasure to be with you. And of course, Deborah, our agent, lead agent representative for the Housing for Heroes program, which we are very thankful for your leadership, Deborah. And hopefully I'm not going too fast, but I would like to also recognize Lori. Lori is our Florida state delegate and also a military mom for the Military Reading Club. And Julio from Arizona, which focusing on wellness programs, helping the Arizona community embrace programs for friends. And Rich, our newest chapter in Colorado, and welcome, and also soon to be our internal magazine creator. Thank you. And then Michelle is our community partner. She has the app that helps people who has PTSD with the cognitive side of PTSD, which are very happy to participate. And then we also have our amazing Laura, which is our radio show host every Friday. And Laura, I just mentioned there's a Laura and Shelly are official hosts for the show. And then behind the scenes, there's always Michael with the technology and the brilliance of whatever he does. I have no idea what had to be done, but he takes care of all that stuff. So welcome everyone. We also, between Laura, Michael, Laura, Michael, Shelly, and now Jimmy is going to be helping with the show. So we have more hands behind the scenes because we want to bring the show to the chapters. So we want to bring the show to Julio in Arizona. So Julio can bring life to Arizona. Mindy in Idaho, Rich in Colorado, Ray in San Diego, Chuck in North County. So we want to bring the radio show segments across the nation. And so we needed more help. So we asked Jimmy, and Jimmy always says yes. So we asked Jimmy and say, he's like, well, let me ask permission to my son. So he asked his son, and his son says yes. He wants to participate. So Michael and Jimmy will be working on that. So we want to bring more information out to the public to make it easier for veterans to find us. Like Julio said, it's difficult for veterans to find us. So we want to make sure that we make it as easy as possible. So with the radio show, with the TV show, with the magazine, any way possible like that, we want to make sure that veterans are able to find us whenever they need us. Thank you very much for everyone for attending the meeting, and it's a real pleasure and an honor and to work with great leadership.
All right, are we ready for our raffle? We got everyone on? How many people we have in the hang out here?
So we have 17.
17, all right. I'm telling you, this traffic in San Diego is just crazy. People are driving from out of town, so you got to give them some deal with.
All right. Thank you so much for joining us and for being here, hanging in here. We just reviewed a short segment about a recap of all of our activities that took place last week, which was our board of directors and CEO founders of their local community. All of our chapter directors came together from all of the different chapters of the Veteran Chamber of Commerce, as well as we had also a happy hour towards the end of the day led by our San Diego chapter director, and it had an entertainer, singer, and a DJ, and there was, it was really a happy hour, virtual happy hour. So we really look forward to sharing with you more activities such as this ones in the near future. So stay tuned. Make sure that you subscribe to our newsletter and that you stay connected because we're coming with more activities for you in the 2021 year to come. Now, I'm going to shift completely attention now to our second guest for the show today, which is Kendra Lowe, who is a military spouse, an Air Force veteran, an innovative leader, and she's also the founder and CEO of Thrive On, which is a community system where the developing programming and marketing of rational behavior therapy. So this is a great resource for military families. And I'm going to have Kendra tell us all about it. I also have Robin. It's still here hanging on, and so she's going to be here. If you have some more questions and you want to ask or write more questions towards the end of the segment of Kendra's segment, be sure that you place them under the comments, and we'll get those to you towards the end of Q&A. So Kendra, come on in and join me, please, and tell me all about this fantastic, innovative way that you have to provide therapy resources for military families and your special military story as well. So let's dive in there and tell us all about you and your military story.
Well, I first want to say thank you so much for having me here. Any chance I get to talk about my experiences and my path as both a veteran and military spouse, it's super exciting for me. So I'm so pleased to be able to be here and share my story and tell you all about what I've been up to for the last couple of years. So just to give you a little bit of background, I grew up in a military family. My grandfather was a navigator and my father was a C-130 pilot in the Air Force. And so lots of service in our family and strength and continuing to serve our country. And so I was always aware of that being first and foremost as a priority in our family. And so when I talked to my dad initially that I was thinking about going to the Air Force Academy, he told me, he's like, well, when he went through, obviously there weren't women. And he said, it's going to be a challenge. It's going to be difficult, a difficult environment, and with very starkly different from going to a normal college. And him maybe not being fully aware of who I am or what motivated me, him saying that it'd be probably the most challenging thing is what drove me directly in that direction to go. So
you were like, no, I want to do it. Now that you said it's challenging, I want to try it out, right? That's usually how our mind works, right?
So if he would have known reverse psychology at that point, he probably should have said to me, oh, it'll be easy.
Exactly.
But I did. I ended up going to the academy. And
you'll be bored. Don't worry about it.
Right. It's a piece of cake. And met my husband there, and we really started off our Air Force career together. Our first duty station was in Del Rio, Texas, and enjoyed many things about being in Texas. And we're pleased that we're back here now in San Antonio because we absolutely love Texas. And started out that journey serving together as a dual military couple, and moved to Great Falls, Montana next, and was able to live in frigid cold weather where you had to plug in your car, which I had never heard of before in my life, so that the engine wouldn't freeze, and lived up there for a couple years. And as we pressed on to the second year being in Great Falls, Montana, my husband got picked up to be a combat rescue officer. And I was currently in my master's program while still active duty. And we were really honestly struggling because we lived that year apart while he was going through the pipeline to go through training and I was trying to finish my master's program. So I feel like that was really a crossroads where we sat down as a family, which we still do every single year, sit down and reevaluate, what is working, what isn't working. and made the decision for me to separate and get out of the Air Force and hang up the uniform while he is, and make that transition from being active duty to a military spouse. I was super excited about it for a lot of reasons. And, but what
So
I was most, go ahead, please.
No, I was going to say, so that's when your military spouse story began, right? And so what would you say in contrast to your active duty role versus military spouse? When did that actually just hit into you? You know, because sometimes when military spouses, we love it, but then at the same time, we kind of hate it a little bit. And when did that just hit a little bit more into that reality? And it's like, oh, military spouse, and I just got my master's. What happened?
Well, it's such a great question, because when we then moved, or I moved down to Albuquerque where he was going through training, it completely hit me. I thought it would be a seamless transition, right? So I had still been a military spouse, even though I was active duty. So I think I had maybe some expectation management that wasn't there, and thought it would be a seamless transition. And it wasn't. I experienced a significant amount of stress associated with being a military spouse. And so you asked what's different, and I think what you take for granted when you're active duty is that ready-made community, that ready-made squadron and unit, that when you move, it's an automatic family. It's someone there ready to welcome you, your sponsors, it's teammates, it's social connection and peers. And you don't have to job hunt, you know, as Robin was telling us about all the, you know, struggles with finding
Absolutely.
a job. When you're active duty, I tease my husband, I don't even know how many job interviews I've been on at this point as a military spouse. And although he's, you know, interviewed for certain positions, he's really truly never been on a job interview. And so he's like, oh, it's not that bad. I'm like, but you've never experienced it, of going into a brand new community. And I didn't give that as much weight as it was probably due, because I hadn't experienced that side of not having that active duty component, and started to feel a lot of stress associated with being a military spouse. And as you mentioned, I was in a master's program, and it was a perfect opportunity when they were saying, what project do you want to do for your master's? And I thought, well, I'm struggling with stress as a military spouse, so why don't I look at that? Why don't I start researching military spouse stress to see if there are certain factors that contribute to it, or am I really the only one? Is it personal just to me? And that really just,
And you were probably like, voila, you're like, whoa, what's going on here?
and it was shocking to me, because I just wasn't ready for it. I was unprepared for that transition. And so, you know, just had a great opportunity to research it and dive deep into it and find out, you know, what could be some factors that add to military spouse stress, and is military spouse stress significant? You know, those were the two things that I really wanted to look into. So I found in my original master's work some concerning trends, but it was smaller. It was 50 Air Force spouses that I looked at. And so if anybody knows me, I love numbers and I love data. They make me really happy. But I know that with a small sample size, such as 50 spouses, it really doesn't transcend to the general population, because it's a small sample size. And so I started to speak out a little bit about it, do some presentations, talk to spouses, but knew that I needed to do more before I could take the next steps with addressing concerns. And so I had another opportunity to move with my husband, and we went to North Carolina, and they had a doctorate program there that I was able to enroll in and start. And again, when I came to that point of my dissertation topic, and I knew from the beginning I wanted to expand on it and look to see if some of those concerning trends were still present with a larger population, and looking at that point, not just Air Force spouses, but Army spouses and Navy spouses as well. And
that's
so,
great.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm glad that you're looking into different communities and that you're able to evaluate, the different, because even though we are all military and then, we say we all wear the uniform, right, in the different branches, I know that every community has its own unique challenges, Army versus Navy versus Air Force. And it's such a great project that you're doing so that you're evaluating the different stressors for each community because we all drive differently. And we all fit in differently. We all find or fight the isolation differently within our communities. A few of us are very chatty and we fit in pretty fast. And all of us, there's a few of us that know we are more reserved. And so I'm glad that you're looking into it. So tell me about Dr. Kendra Thrive On and how that, came about to just, be born and you launched this project for yourself.
Absolutely. It's been an amazing experience. So as I said, as I started to do presentations and talk about what my research found, I had so many spouses come up to me afterwards and say, you speaking about clinical levels of stress and that 1 in 4 spouses could potentially be at clinical levels of stress. It made me feel like I'm not alone. It really gave me hope that there's a way to help combat stress associated with military life. And there was that yearning for more. And so my husband and I were walking one night in Okinawa, and I just said, I wish I could go into every spouse's home. I wish I could teach them these ways to shift negative emotions to negative thoughts and to positive thoughts and how that can really change their emotions. And I just need to do more presentations and get into more homes. And he's like, well, we can't. Our bandwidth is so short right now with getting ready to move and 3 kids and a dog. He's like, we can't handle anymore. And so that really, again, sparked the idea to write about it and provide concrete tools so I could essentially, through my voice, and through tools, meet spouses where they're at in their homes.
That's fantastic. By the way, I want to make a comment, not necessarily to divert the discussion, but I totally feel you about this. And growing up, I grew up in Wisconsin, Madison, Wisconsin, and so it was super cold to the point that when I reached that point where I had to turn on my car for a whole hour so I can warm up, then warm up the key so I could actually open the door. I totally sympathize. So that was a huge stress on my end. So when I said I'm moving Southwest and I'm never coming back, literally not being back. So that was a huge stress. So how can I, as a military spouse, use your findings to really create a more positive mindset and just a different thought? I always often tell military spouses it could be as easy as Hakuna Matata, but no, it's not. It's more than that, right? Tell me what can I do? What can I do to make it better?
And you agree by you saying Hakuna Matata, that's such a great point. There's a difference between what you read a lot about now is toxic positivity. And so that's a term that thrown around, and it's that everything's fine, everything's okay, it's going to be fine. And when you have that mask on, you're not really addressing some of those thought patterns that are really internal. When you put on just that face, it's fine, everything's great, it's going to be wonderful. Those are positive things to say, but the real work is internal. And the real work is asking yourself, what are you really thinking about it? So what are my true thoughts? And I use the example of, when we were going over to Okinawa, I was concerned about going halfway around the world and finding out when we got there that it wasn't not just a 2-year tour, but on the night that we arrived, it was a 4-year tour. And was what we were told. And so it's diving in internally saying, it's not what I expected. I'm frustrated. I might be disappointed, but it will be okay. And this is how I'm going to make it okay. And so it's admitting where you're at, but then shifting it, saying, I've done difficult things as a military spouse in the past. I can do this again. I will get there. I might not be there right now, and that's okay, but I will get there. And so again, through the tools that I've developed for military spouses and now working on for military children, it's to step you through how to reflect on what those internal thoughts are, how to shift them to more positive thoughts, more proactive thoughts. And then we know that really does ultimately shift our emotions and our behaviors to more positive behaviors.
Yeah, and I love that you brought up our kids, right? Because that is one component of this whole military lifestyle that sometimes we often underappreciate or don't look enough how all of this just moving around, changing schools and everything else that goes on that we haven't quite looked at or pay attention, right? I mean, we have now, but I think in the past or previous generations, like we have 4 kids, but the 2 older ones and the younger ones, I see a huge change and difference in adapting to the environment and everything else. And I think it's because we were always into this whole, like, it will be okay, it's positive, just blend in and we'll be fine. But I'm glad that you are creating some of those tools for our kids so that we can definitely, manage better our stressors. And it's okay to not be okay and admit it. But like you said, Kendra, it's okay to not be okay, but then focus on saying, well, then if it's not okay, what am I going to do now to make it better? What is within my control to do that? And I'm learning how to do that. So I really would love to be able to read a little more of your work into that. And do that. So what is the next step? How can we help you reach more community, more families, and really project your work out to our veteran and military community?
It's spreading the word. So right now I continue to do presentations. I'm developing, as you said, or as I mentioned, developing resources for military children. And then I hope to even broaden the scope even more for active duty members. So it's spreading the word that I am working on this, that it's specifically military family focused, and that the mission continues to be helping our military families improve social and emotional health. And that's such an important topic in general, but I'd even say in today's environment, it's so important with this year that we've been through, is just take a step back and focus on social emotional health, because it really does affect not only ourselves, but our families and our communities. And so the more that we come together and support each other to lift each other up and to improve social and emotional health, it affects everyone and benefits everyone around you.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more. And I'm going to bring in Robin into the conversation, because I would think that as a community, we're all tied in. I imagine you're not at the right mindset, or you're not really viewing your community in a positive way. That affects how you then connect to a job, and find your purpose, right, Robin? What do you think about all this fantastic work that Kendra is doing?
Oh, I absolutely love it. I myself, while I served in the Navy, was a Navy spouse as well. My daughter and I moved from Brunswick, Maine to hops around the country all by ourselves, because my husband had to go to SEER school in San Diego. So I was left with getting our house packed up, getting making sure I had childcare set up, and getting to a new place that was, didn't know what to do. So military spouses are just one set of resilient, resourceful, just absolutely great talent that employers are missing out on, because they're trying to decipher a resume that may have gaps in their work histories, lack of progression in their careers because they move so often, and employers are making assumptions that it's happening because they're not talented, and it's absolutely the wrong assumption. So I love what you're doing. I also say, my first 6 years in the Navy, we moved 5 times. My daughter, before her 4th birthday, had lived in 3 states. So it's a struggle, and it can be, and especially some of the isolation of the places that you're in. But it's also the job can be the catalyst for starting some of the depression, and some of the, if you're out there and you can't get a job, you can't support your family, that starts the cycle of not feeling worthy and that type of thing. And then everything else piled on top of that just increases the stress. So I love what you're doing, Laura. I can't wait to hear more about it, and love to connect offline as well, so to see how we can collaborate.
Absolutely. There we go. You got 2 more fans here, and we're definitely community partners that will go out and advocate on the great work that you're doing. And how do we find out more about you, Kendra, and connect with you directly?
So I have a website, Dr. Kendra Lowe, thriveonllc.com, that you can go, and it has a lot of my current publications as well as availability to book a presentation. And then you can certainly email me, drkendra@icloud.com, for any way that I can present information to. I've done several squadrons and organizations and wings speaking about this. So if you are in need or know of someone in need, please contact me, and I'd love to be able to push my message out and help military families as much as I can.
And what is next for you? What is, I mean, I know you are right out through your PhD program. So what is, the sky's the limit?
So I'm fortunate that Alvareza Publishing, that does specific publishing military genre, they've picked up my work, so I'm working with them and to develop the military child version as well as notebook companions to make it more user friendly for the user, for either the military spouse or the child. So I'm working with them, and then obviously right now I'm still working in the school system with children, and so children continue to be my passion to help as well. And I just want to continue to speak out about social and emotional health and see where that leads me.
Absolutely. If there's one quick, I guess, piece of advice that you can give us parents who, especially during this hard year, COVID-19, right, that we can do for our kids to help them get engaged into their school system, their community, or just overall general understanding, what would you tell us?
Oh, I have to give you just one?
Just one, or three or four. We can be here for a whole day. That's fine. I want to be mindful of your time.
For, just from what I've seen in our community here and in my own personal experience with my children, is creating structure. Right now, because there are so many unknowns and everything is out of control, which we're used to as military families, this is another layer of not having control over a situation. And so as much as you can, I've seen a lot of individuals let those personal boundaries go because they're in a controlless situation. But now more than ever, it's important to put that structure and put those boundaries into place, not only for ourselves personally, but for our children, because it's something that we can control and something that we can count on. And so I've seen just the positive effects of when my children were virtual learners, that I still made them get up early in the morning. We did PT, and we had, a structure all day long, and it helped them know what they could count on in a situation that they really felt as though the world was kind of collapsing on them.
Absolutely. I love that. Thank you. And that's probably the same sort of a piece of advice for those job seekers, right, Robin? A structure and organizing your thoughts about what you want to do, how you want to target the job search and the hunting, for better words.
Absolutely. I mean, the civilian marketplace of workforce is vast, right? There's millions of companies out there, 28 million small businesses across the U.S. So, I mean, to try to navigate that, you need a structure, you need a plan, you need to know, you need to know what your skills are and be comfortable and confident in those skills. You need to learn how to tell your story, why those skills add value to an organization, and really any organization, because they do. When you look at the military experience, our skills are traverse nearly every occupation out there, and the learning agility and the leadership and the resiliency and resourcefulness, all those things that both veterans and military spouses bring to the table, any company needs them and wants them. So yeah, you definitely need a structure. And I totally agree what Kendra is saying about for the kids, especially. I've got 4 grand cherubs, and although they're homeschooled, they were always homeschooled, they still need a structure. They still need to know what they can count on. And I love that her advice there was that give them that they can count on. It also helps the parents too, right? Because if you've got a structure for your kids to follow, then they're not as, all over the place, and then you can have some piece of structure yourself. So I love
So
it.
that you
Love it,
can
love it.
focus on job search and
Exactly.
or career development
Connecting.
or
Yes.
yes, or connecting or developing your learning or anything else, because now it gives you the free time to really focus and think about yourself. So I love that. Thank you so
Exactly.
much. So anything else that we can add as we're getting ready to wrap up? And thank you so much for your time and for your visit here to this Veterans Radio Show. Anything else, that last words that any of you, Kendra, Ms. Robin?
Great appreciation for everyone out there that's supporting military families. I think we've come such a long way, even since you know, I entered the military. There's so many organizations. Seek out your resources and organizations, because there are so many companies and nonprofits and organizations willing to support us. And I just thanks to everyone that's willing to support and lift up military families.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I would echo what Kendra's saying. Don't go it alone. Don't beat yourself up if you're feeling depressed, if you're feeling like you just don't know where to turn. Please don't think you have to suffer in silence. Reach out to somebody, reach out to another veteran, reach out to a veteran organization. Just, we're all here and we're all family. So just let us help.
Absolutely. Thank you. And with that, with those kind and beautiful words from Robin, we're going to wrap up and say thank you so much for watching. This has been the Veteran Radio Show, the weekly show which features military veterans, spouses, and community leaders while exploring heroism, action, and leadership for those that are making it happen. Make sure that you find out more and join us at our website, and join us again coming next Friday, which is our last show for the year. However, we'll be back in January for more shows to come and additional providers, community heroes that are making it happen. So stay tuned. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great weekend.